What's going on? It's so hot, dry, and dusty. Where am I?
You are in Nakuru, Kenya, East Africa.
Things are so much different here. The culture is so different. The people seem to be very friendly. What is the language they are speaking?
They are speaking Swahili. They also have 42 other tribal languages, and those with education also speak English.
There is so much suffering here. I have never seen so much pain in one place before.
Yes, Holly. This is a very poor country. There are few doctors. Most of these people will live their whole lives and never visit a doctor.
The children. Look at all the children. They are everywhere. There are so many children.
Yes, Holly. Over 60% of the population of Kenya are children.
These children are just wandering around in the streets. That little child just asked me for chakula. What is that?
Chakula is the word for food in Swahili. She is asking you for chakula because she is hungry.
They are not just asking me for food. They are asking everyone who comes by for food.
Yes, Holly. These children do not live and play like normal children. They are forced to scavenge in the streets like stray dogs for any piece of food they can find.
This poor child, he is lying here on the sidewalk beside the wall. He is just lying there. Is this child alive? He could not be more than 7 or 8 years old.
They live behind bushes, old buildings, and oftentimes die in the streets from hunger, malaria, typhoid, bad food, impure water, and AIDS.
I don't see many teenagers, only a few here and there. Where are they?
I'm sorry, Holly, but most of these children will not live to be teenagers, and those who do will oftentimes be turned into prostitutes and thieves.
Stop! I don't want to see anymore. I don't want to hear anymore. I want to wake up. I want to wake up. I've had enough.
I'm sorry, Holly, but you have more to see and more to hear.
What is in that bottle that they have in their mouths? I can smell it from here. It has a horrible odor.
It is glue, Holly. They are sniffing glue. The fumes from the glue fill their little stomachs and make them feel full, and it gives them a temporary high to help them forget their hunger pains. Unfortunately, it destroys their developing lungs and brain cells. Many times they go for days without food after they sniff the glue.
That is horrible. Why are these young children who are 7 or 8 years old taking care of these 2 or 3-year-old children? Where are their parents? Why don't their parents take care of these children?
They do not have parents. These are orphans. There are over 1 million orphans in Kenya, East Africa. Many of their parents died in tribal wars. Some died from diseases such as malaria and typhoid, but most of their parents died from AIDS. It is nothing unusual to see an older orphan taking care of a younger sibling, or a 70 or 80-year-old woman who can hardly take care of or feed herself, trying to take care of 8 or 9 orphan grandchildren.
That is horrible, just horrible. Can't the government do something to help these children? Aren't there orphanages that they can live in?
The government is very poor, Holly. They can do very little to help. Yes, there are a few orphanages, but unfortunately, there are not enough to take care of so many orphans.
I have to do something. I have to do something. Isn't there anything that I can do? Isn't there anything that I can do?
So many orphans.
Jambo Rafiki, that is hello in Swahili. My name is Wesley Wallace. I am the CEO and founder of the Orphans of Kenya project, a ministry of Elam Ministries International. I am also pastor as well as a minister, my family and myself, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, the home of Fort Bragg, the 82nd Airborne, and the Special Forces. Over the years, the Lord has given myself as well as my family numerous ministry opportunities. I was raised. I had the opportunity and privilege to be raised in the home of Dr. Joe Wallace and Nancy Wallace. After that, I went to Bible college, and after Bible college, I was able to minister for the Raleigh Rescue Mission. I was the evening chaplain there for several years. I was able to work at Central Prison in Raleigh for a while. I was also able to work for the Baptist Children's Home, my family and myself, taking care of troubled boys and girls. I was a divorce recovery counselor for a period of time in Florence, Alabama. I was a principal as well as an educator in Ahoskie, North Carolina for a good while. I've been a youth pastor of 3 churches, as well as the full-time senior pastor of 3 churches. And unknowing to my family as well as myself, God was preparing us for an awesome ministry, something bigger than we'd ever imagined. In the next few moments, I would like for you, if you would, to listen to what we have to say. We want you to understand who we are. We want you to understand where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going. See, in 2010, Pastor Ishmael Waganga of Nakuru, Kenya, East Africa, he invited me to come and see his orphanage. That mission trip would change not just my life, but my family's life for the rest of our lives. My ultimate goal is, at the end of this video, for you to become a friend to the Orphans of Kenya. Thank you.
Mr. Wesley Wallace's time in Africa and his time spent with Pastor Ishmael in Nakuru, Kenya, was an eye-opener. Nothing he had ever experienced in ministry prepared him for the level of suffering he witnessed there. Nothing has ever touched his heart or hurt him more than seeing the orphans with no homes living in the streets. Once he came back to America, for the first 6 weeks, he was both depressed and confused. Every night he would cry himself to sleep with the images of the orphans in his mind. Every morning, his first thought was about the orphans. He knew the Lord would not let him forget what he had seen. He did not know what to do about the suffering that he saw. After much prayer, fasting, and counseling, God made it clear to him that he was to start an orphanage in Nakuru, Kenya, East Africa. This is a ministry that the Lord had been preparing his family and him for their whole lives. After several weeks, he understood that they needed to purchase 100 acres in the countryside of Nakuru to start Elim Orphanage. They would need to build cottages which would house 20 orphans and house parents in each cottage. They would need to dig at least 2 wells, build a church for worship, a cafeteria, a playground for the children, some staff housing, and eventually, in the future, a mission compound for volunteers to come and help, as well as a school for the orphans. The rest of the property would be farmed for food. But how was he going to go from sitting in a Waffle House at 2 a.m. in Fayetteville, North Carolina, to having an orphanage in Nakuru, Kenya, East Africa, surrounded by children? It is said, a goal without a plan is nothing but a dream. In Phase 1, Elim Ministries International understood that they would have to get all the legal paperwork and activities in order. It wasn't long before they were incorporated and a board was formed of individuals who loved the Lord and had God-given gifts and wisdom to achieve the tasks at hand. The final element to finish off Phase 1 came the week after Thanksgiving of 2010, when Elim Ministries Incorporated received their 501c3 status from the IRS, recognizing the ministry as a non-profit tax-exempt organization. This enables all gifts given to be tax-deductible. This brought them one step closer to building an orphanage. Phase 2 started on January 1st, 2011. This is where the ministry needed to get its tools together in order to start fundraising. With the financial donations from individuals and businesses who loved the Orphans of Kenya and believed in the Orphans of Kenya project, within 6 months, Phase 2 was completed, and another big step towards starting an orphanage was completed. Phase 3 is where we are now. Our goal is to make 5,000 friends or 500 partners. A friend is someone who likes what the Orphans of Kenya project is doing. They see the need and they want to be a part of the team. A friend will receive a cool t-shirt and an informative monthly newsletter. A friend commits to as little as $10 a month or $20 a month. A partner is one who, just as a friend says he likes what the Orphans of Kenya project is doing, feels the Lord has blessed him and his family to the point that they feel they can give $30 a month. This averages to be $1 a day, or the price of a McDouble cheeseburger, or $60 a month, or $90 a month. Most nonprofit organizations spend 70% of their income for administrative costs. Usually only 30% goes to help the cause. The goal of the Orphans of Kenya project is to turn that around and spend only 30% of income for administrative costs and have 70% go to help the Orphans of Kenya. 10% of the funds received will be divided between 2 existing orphanages. 5% will go to Emmanuel Orphanage run by Pastor Ishmael. The other 5% will be given to East African Mission Orphanage run by Ralph and Mary. Both of these Christian orphanages are doing their part to help the Orphans of Kenya. Phase 3 will be an ongoing process. As soon as we have feasible funds, we will move into Phase 4 and begin purchasing property and digging wells. As God provides, we will be able to build cottages and house orphans. In time, we will be able to build a cafeteria, a church, a mission compound, playground, school, and purchase vehicles. Wow, isn't this exciting? Can you imagine if the Lord tarries, the thousands and thousands of children that will be given life, hope, and the knowledge of Christ in the next 50 years? What a legacy.
Welcome back, friends. We're going to Nakuru, Kenya, and we're going to buy 100 acres, and we're going to start an orphanage. But we need your help. We cannot do it without your help. You know, over the years, I've told my wife and my kids how awesome it would have been if I could have gotten on the ground floor of some big companies. Can you imagine getting on the ground floor of Amway or McDonald's or Microsoft? Some of these large companies, could you imagine the financial gains that we would have now? I probably wouldn't even have to work. I could just go and build an orphanage and not even think about it. But you know, for $10 or $20 a month, the Lord has given you an opportunity and has given me an opportunity to be on the ground floor of something really, really big. Something that, not financially perhaps, that you'll gain rewards, but spiritual gains. Can you imagine over the next 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, the hundreds, if not thousands of orphans that we'll be helping? And we cannot do it without your help. $10, $20 a month, you'll give hope to a child, love to a child, hugs, kisses, a warm bed, a warm meal, security, clothing. You'll give them the opportunity to know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. You'll give them education. You'll give a child that wouldn't even have the opportunity to become a teenager an opportunity to live and live the life that needs to be lived. My brother-in-law several years ago showed me this picture. And this picture stirred me to tears when I first saw it. And then he told me the story. And once he told me the story, I had confused emotions. I was upset. I was angry. This picture was taken in 1994 by Mr. Carter, who was a photographer. He went into the Sudan during the famine. And this picture is a picture of a small child, 3, maybe 4 years old, crawling to a UN feeding station about a mile away, trying to get there. Well, he sees this buzzard sitting there ready to eat this child. And the question was, once he took this picture, he sent it to the New York Times. And the New York Times published this picture, and he got a Pulitzer Prize for it. Well, the first question that was in millions of people's minds, as well as yours now, is what happened to the child? Well, there's 2 stories. The first story comes from his father, Mr. Carter's father, that says that he shooed the bird away. He did nothing with the orphan. He shooed the bird away and sat under a tree and cried. That's the first story. The second story is a story that has also been published, that he walked away and did nothing. Unfortunately, after millions of people heard this, Mr. Carter went into his garage and turned on his vehicle, and he killed himself. He committed suicide. The question today is, what are you going to do with what you've seen? Mr. Carter saw the need. He had an opportunity to help, and he did nothing. When I went to Nakuru, Kenya, East Africa, I saw the need. I've seen an opportunity to help. And me, my wife, my board, and hopefully thousands of people just like you will not just sit to the side and do nothing. We're committed to helping the orphans of Kenya, to showing God's love to these orphans. We're committed to it. We're dedicating our life to it. We're asking for your help. I told my church about a little girl that I met in Kenya. I was sitting at a coffee diner the second week there in Kenya. I was sitting on the front porch watching the people go by, and this little 7-year-old girl walks up to me. She was asking for chakula, which is food in Swahili. She was dirty. She had crabs and lice in her hair. The little girl was nasty and dirty. And she asked several times with her hands open for chakula, for food. I handed her a handful of French fries, and she was eating them like a wild animal. I asked her, I said, "Where do you live?" And she looked at me and pointed around her. I said, "Where are your parents?" And she looked me in the face and said, "AIDS. No parents, AIDS, died of AIDS." I said, "Show me where you sleep." She reached out and grabbed my finger and started walking with me. And we walked for several blocks down an alley. And then there was a bush beside a wall. And she showed me this little bush, and behind the bush there was a little gully like a dog would sleep in during the summertime, just a little area to stay cool. Well, she lay down with those little hands of French fries, and she laid there in that little hole and closed her eyes as if she was sleeping. I sat on a rock about 20 feet away and cried for over 20-30 minutes. My little girl heard this. I have a 7-year-old girl, same age as this little girl. Her name is Hannah, and she went to her mother a few days later and said, "Mother, when we go to Africa, I'm going to find that little girl. We're going to find her, Mother. We're going to bring her home to live with us. She's going to become my best friend. She won't have to look for food no more. And she can play with my toys and sleep in my bed." My wife picked up Hannah and said, "Honey, that's what Daddy's trying to do. Pray for Daddy. That's what Daddy's trying to do." People, we need your help. We need men and women, boys and girls who love children, who like what we're doing, who appreciate what the Orphans of Kenya Project is trying to do. And we need your help. We cannot do it without hundreds and even thousands of people just like you. We need businesses, we need individuals, we need churches who are able to help out. That's what we need. We need people that will come and donate and give. Perhaps you're sitting right now in a church and you're watching this video, or with a civic group or a prayer meeting group or a small group or whatever group you may be sitting with right now. In a moment, they're going to give you a card. I'm asking you to fill that card out. It's going to ask you to pray for us, and it's going to ask you to give sacrificially, perhaps a one-time gift if you like, or perhaps you can give $10, $20 a month, $30 a month, 40, 60, 90, whatever God has provided for you. But we need friends to do this. Or perhaps you're watching this on your computer right now. You've gone to our website, orphansofkenyaproject.org or ookp.org, and you're watching this right now. I ask you to go down there to the bottom of the home page where it says giving and click there, and I ask you to fill that out. Or perhaps you don't feel comfortable working with a computer or filling out the little card, but perhaps you want to talk to someone in person. One of our board members, as well as our treasurer, she's been working in banks for over 30 years. She is the one that you'll call at our 1-800 number, Miss Linda Bass. Please give her a call. Our motto is, we are blessed to bless others. You can be a blessing. You today, right now, can change a horrible nightmare into a beautiful dream. Thank you for your help. On behalf of myself, my family, and the Orphans of Kenya, Thank you.